Before the great cities of Mesopotamia rose from the plains, before irrigation canals carved order into the landscape, before temples towered over bustling streets, there were two cultures whose artistry, architecture, and social experiments shaped the earliest foundations of settled life. They lived centuries before the Ubaid horizon. They left no writing, no kings, no monumental palaces, but they left something else, a world of painted pottery, communal architecture, and early agricultural innovation that would echo across the millennia. This is the story of the Halaf and Samarra cultures, two Neolithic societies whose creativity and organization helped set the stage for everything that came after. To understand Halaf and Samarra, imagine northern and central Mesopotamia around 6000 BCE. Farming villages are spreading. People are experimenting with new crops, new tools, and new ways of living together. The landscape is dotted with small settlements, some only a few houses, others growing into early regional centers. There are no cities yet, no writing, no metal tools beyond the earliest copper experiments. But something is changing. Across the plains of northern Iraq and Syria, a culture emerges with pottery so finely made, so beautifully painted, that it becomes instantly recognizable across the region. And farther south, along the middle Tigris, another culture develops new forms of architecture, irrigation, and ritual life. These are the Halaf and Samarra cultures, parallel experiments in what settled life could be. Let's begin in the north, in the fertile valleys of the Kabul River. Around 6100 BCE, the Halaf culture appears, not suddenly, but as a gradual evolution out of earlier pottery Neolithic traditions. Halaf pottery is legendary, thin walled, beautifully fired, and decorated with intricate geometric patterns, spirals, triangles, cross hatching, and sometimes stylized animals. The colors range from red to black to cream, applied with a precision that suggests highly skilled artisans. These vessels weren't just containers, they were symbols of identity, of status, of shared cultural belonging, and they spread far. Across northern Mesopotamia, from southeastern Turkey to northern Iraq and Syria, Halaf pottery appears in dozens of sites. This tells us something important. Halaf communities were connected. They traded, exchanged ideas, and maintained a shared aesthetic across hundreds of kilometers. One of the most distinctive features of Halaf settlements is the toloi, round dome structures made of mud brick. Some were houses, others may have been storage buildings or ritual spaces. Their circular shape stands out in a world where most Neolithic houses were rectangular. The tholos may have had symbolic meaning, or it may simply have been a practical architectural experiment that became culturally significant. Halaf settlements were generally small, clusters of houses, workshops, and storage areas. There is little evidence of strong social hierarchy. No palaces, no elite burials, no monumental buildings, but there is evidence of specialized craft production, long distance exchange networks, shared ritual practices, communal storage, and food preparation. Halaf society seems to have been decentralized but highly interconnected, a web of small communities bound together by shared traditions and exchange. Halaf sites also contain clay figurines, often female, sometimes seated, sometimes stylized. Their meaning is debated, but they hint at ritual life, fertility symbolism, or household religion. Whatever their purpose, they show that Halaf people were not only farmers and potters, they were storytellers, symbol makers, and ritual practitioners. Now we move south to the middle Tigris region, to sites like Samarra, Tel Essawan, and Chogamami. Around 6200 to 5700 BCE, the Samarra culture emerges, contemporary with Halaf, but very different in character. Like Halaf, Samarra is known for its pottery, but the style is distinct. Samarra vessels feature fine geometric designs, stylized birds and animals, dark paint on buff or cream backgrounds, highly symmetrical compositions. The precision suggests skilled artisans working with standardized techniques, perhaps even early workshop specialization. One of the most important contributions of the Samarra culture is early irrigation. At sites like Chogamami, archaeologists have found evidence of canal systems, controlled water distribution, irrigated fields for barley and wheat. This is a major innovation. Irrigation allows more reliable harvests, larger populations, surplus production, social coordination, and planning. In other words, Samara communities were taking the first steps toward the agricultural intensification that would later define southern Mesopotamia. Samara settlements show more planning than Halaf ones. At Tel Essawan, for example, houses are arranged in rows, and the site is surrounded by a defensive ditch and wall. This suggests greater concern for security, more centralized decision making, possibly emerging social hierarchy. Inside the houses, archaeologists found storage rooms, clay bins, and evidence of organized food production. Samara burials sometimes include fine pottery, jewelry, figurines, tools. The variation in grave goods hints at social differentiation, not full blown elites, but the beginnings of inequality. Samara figurines are often more stylized than Halaf ones. Some have exaggerated features or painted designs. They may represent deities, ancestors, or symbolic figures used in household rituals. Halaf and Samarra existed at roughly the same time, but they represent two different trajectories in Neolithic Mesopotamia. Halaf, the artistic network, decentralized villages, long distance exchange, masterful painted pottery, round tholoi architecture, limited social hierarchy. Halaf is a world of craft, connection, and cultural cohesion. Samarra, the organized experiment, irrigation systems, planned settlements, defensive structures, early social differentiation, symbolic pottery and figurines. Samara is a world of coordination, planning, and emerging complexity. Together, they set the stage. When these traditions eventually blend, especially in the Halaf to Ubaid transitional period, they create the cultural soil from which the Ubaid and later Uruk civilizations will grow. By around 5500 BCE, both Halaf and Samarra begin to transform. Halaf communities gradually merge into the Halaf to Ubaid transitional horizon where pottery styles shift and new architectural forms appear. Samarra communities evolve into early Ubaid traditions in the south, carrying forward irrigation knowledge and settlement planning. This transition is not a collapse, it is a fusion. The artistic legacy of Halaf meets the organizational legacy of Samarra. Together they form the cultural backbone of the Ubaid world, and through it the first cities of Mesopotamia. The Halaf and Samarra cultures may not be as famous as Uruk or Sumer, but their contributions are foundational.